Hey, welcome back everybody. I figured while I had the opportunity, and I still had both excavators here, I would do a little side-by-side comparison so people could see the difference between, say, a 3¼ ton machine and a 2¼ ton machine. So a little over 5,000 pounds, and the other way, a little over 7,000 pounds. So it's a full ton difference, which is substantial. I mean, it's almost 50% difference in added weight, stability. I parked these two so that the rear of the tracks are pretty much identical, straight line across, and the rear of the machines are almost straight across. I think the Bobcat goes back just a little farther due to the size, but it is a big difference, much bigger than the pictures probably show. So I'm going to take you guys for a walk around the machines and point out the things that I definitely notice as being substantially different, worth considering when you're out in the market and you're thinking about buying a machine. So let's take a look. Okay, one of the first things that I noticed was the steering knuckles, or not the steering knuckles, the boom knuckle is very similar as far as like heft goes, but the plates that mount that knuckle to the machine, there's a big difference there. So the big cast knuckle, not too different. The Bobcat is beefier, but this is all like maybe 1/2 inch, 5/8 plate engineered, whereas let's go take a look over at the Bobcat. And again, the knuckle's pretty beefy here. I might be getting a little too close, but the housing and the base appears to be all cast and substantially thicker. I mean, that's an inch, inch and a quarter, inch and a half, possibly in spots. So that is, I believe, a lot more durable if that's forged. I don't think it might be forged though. It may just be cast. So I'm not entirely sure, but that is one of the things I noticed that makes a huge difference. Now the pin sizes for the buckets on the Komatsu are 30 millimeter pins, which is really common with, say, 2-ton machines. But then when you come over and you look at the pins on the Bobcat, they're 35 millimeter pins, which is it's more common with the 3.5 ton machine. Then they quickly escalate up to 40, 50, 60, 80 millimeters and whatnot. But everything is this is probably closer to a 5/8 plate, I'm going to guess, that's used for the linkage, and over here I think it's closer to probably 1/2 inch. Like I said before, I lined up the rear of the tracks as good as I could by eye, so you can kind of see across there. And as we move up to the front, let's call it a wheelbase, is probably about 1 foot longer. Also, the tracks are going to be a little bit wider. I think the Komatsus are around 11 inch, and I believe the Bobcats are probably about 12 inch. But then also, let's look at the blades. The blades are just beefier. I mean, the sheet that this is made out of is probably a 3/16 thick plate, whereas come over and look at the plate on the Bobcat, and that is probably at least 5/16 thick. And then the support built into behind the blades is substantially beefier. Not to mention the rams. I mean, all the hydraulic cylinders are just going to be bigger pistons, bigger barrels, and all that good stuff. The blade sits out probably a good 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet farther forward for stability on the Bobcat. And let's see here. Let's take a peek. Now, the Komatsu is the older 4-stick style control, which is totally fine. The pilot controls in the Bobcat are the same thing, except for I don't need to reach forward for the outside sticks like I do in the Komatsu. So you spend a good deal of time hunched over in a machine like this, or leaning forward, I should say. Let's take a look at the images. Okay, so the Komatsu has a Yanmar, I want to say, I think it's an 18 horsepower motor. It is the hydraulic pump. It's got like a triple setup hydraulic pump like most of the excavators do. And again, I haven't gotten too much into it because it's run me trouble free, really. I did replace the injectors, thinking that it was going to correct an overly rich running scenario where it was running a little more black smoke than I thought it should be under heavier loads, like if I'm trying to drive it up a hill, or I just got a lot of strain on the system, and it did help some, but there definitely there's still a little bit of a black smoke when it gets under loads. So no big deal. I don't really put it under crazy load all the time. Actually, most of the time I'm running it, it's you know, it's a little higher than idle, but that's about it. So let's look at the Bobcat. All right, so now there's a difference. I believe this Bobcat has the Kubota excuse me, Kubota engine, and this one here is about 40 horsepower. So where we're looking at about a 50% difference in weight and stability, it's actually just about, well, it's over double the horsepower. So far this machine, I run and dig just off idle. I pick up the idle if I want to get around the area a little bit faster, only because the 2-speed valve was disconnected in this one. So I don't know if the 2-speed valve is not working properly or if it was just the switch, but we'll get that going again here at some point. But again, that's just, it's a big difference. It's a lot more machine for not that much more money, really. But, you know, I mean, you can do an awful lot with the little diggers. I love my little Komatsu. It's served me well for 4 years or more now, but you know, everything's going to take a little longer with it. You know, you got to dig a little slower. You can't lift as much. You can't push as much. So I got to the point where I realized that you know, the time would be a little more valuable to me than the funds. And well, to be honest with you, the market is so high right now that I'm probably going to sell my little Komatsu for basically what I've got into the Bobcat. So kind of like traded up for free, although the Komatsu's in much better shape physically and appearance wise. But overall, I mean, the Bobcat could use a new seat. You know, the paint is worse for wear, and you can see there's a little leak here. You see on the track here. They told me when I bought it that the swing motor leaks just a little bit, but it's not too much. So I've got to look into that. But other than that, this Bobcat is in great shape. The people that owned it already replaced the hydraulic pump. They replaced one of the final drives. They replaced, I believe, the this cylinder here for the swing, not the swing, the boom swing, and quite a lot of the hoses they've already done for me. They did the pins and the bushings, so mechanically this machine is really, really sound, other than the leak in the swing motor. Other than that, I'll get it cleaned up, pressure washed here, and who knows, maybe she'll get a little bit of fresh paint, and I'll buy some of the creature feature things here if they're still available. Maybe a couple of new steering lever knobs, and definitely some sort of a new seat. I doubt it'll be Bobcat replacement because they want about $500 for the seat and the back pad, and I know I can get something else to fit for just a couple hundred. So, but then again, do I even need it? The Komatsu's had a torn seat since I purchased it, and other than getting a wet butt once in a while, it's not that big a deal, really. You know, there's padding, and that's all you care about. Now, the Komatsu here is about $2,700, $2,760. I believe that to be accurate. It's worked ever since I've had it, and the Bobcat here, I believe to be accurate too. That's $2,715. So you're looking at two machines that have roughly the same amount of hours on them, but one was obviously kept in a little better place, or out of the elements, I should say. But anyways, I'm excited to have a newer machine, a bigger machine, and most exciting of all is the fact that this guy has the factory hydraulics here. So we're going to be adding a thumb to this, a hydraulic thumb, which is going to be awesome. And also with this machine, I got the 12-inch bucket that's on the machine now. I left that on because I've been digging stumps, and that's great for getting between roots and all that, and digging up. And I also have, I believe, an 18-inch bucket on that. And this one here, the Komatsu, has an 18-inch bucket on it. The previous owner had welded this bar across the teeth on the bucket, so it works like a grading blade. But I also have 4 teeth that will go with the machine that you just unbolt the bar, bolt the 4 teeth on, and you got your digging teeth back. Added the manual thumb. I want to say at the time it was maybe $300 to add a Linville manual thumb. From what I understand, Bobcat told me it's going to be about $29.50 to add a factory Bobcat thumb to this. So I'm not going that route. I found a couple manufacturers that make hydraulic thumbs that will mount into the factory mount location, and they're in the neighborhood of $1,400–1,600. So I will most likely go with that. I just can't put that much money into a machine that's well, you know, I'm not using to make a living. This is not what I do for work. This is me basically tearing up trails in the forest, things like that. I'm going to build some retaining walls around the property here. A lot of these hills are super steep. Unable to mow them, and it's been too wet to mow recently anyways. But yeah, it's just me working the land. So that's all I'm doing. It's more or less fun, hobby, whatever you want to call it. And that's that. So yeah, I just figured a lot of people might like to see a couple of machines side by side and give a decent comparison. So if you have any comments, stick them below, and I'll do my best to answer them. As long as I still have the machines here, I can go out and do comparisons. But once the Komatsu's gone, I will no longer have the ability to go out and say measure anything or do any sort of side-by-side comparisons. So as always, thanks for watching, and you guys all have a great day.